So David Stark, do you go by Dave or David?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
David Stark joined the military 2002, right after the 9/11 attacks. I won't tell you how old I am, or I was at that time.
significantly younger.
Significantly younger. But Operation Iraqi Freedom and then the Global War on Terror, two times over to the Middle East with the military police, but at that time acting more as an infantry unit while on deployments especially. So I want to start off saying thank you for your service. I know you probably hear that a lot.
You too.
Yeah, and he's just always like, it's a little cringe.
Yeah.
So we'll just jump right into it, man. So, and then after 5 years in the military, you transitioned to civilian law enforcement. Been working that ever since. So a total of 2 decades in public service, carrying a gun.
Psychoticness. Yes.
Yeah. Self-abuse, man. It's dangerous.
Glutton for punishment.
So I had the pleasure when we switched to the agency that we work for now. I had the pleasure of meeting you when you were training me the agency way.
Well, I didn't train you. We just rode together.
That is true. It would, dude. To this day was a blast. It was like we operated as a 2-man car for 2 months, 3 months, and it was a whole bunch of shenanigans. So
we got to do lots of stuff.
Yeah. Good stories, man. So I guess we'll start off with like what got you to join the military.
Okay. Well, I was working as a design engineer for a internet company here. It used to be called US West, and then it got bought out by Quest, which is now CenturyLink. Then after Joe Nastio did his hostile takeover of the company, he bankrupted US West. And so right after that merger, the 9/11 hit, and then I just was laid off. I was just recently married to my first wife. And we were married. I should have taken this as a sign. We were married 3 months and all this happened. And then I got laid off. And that was in September of 2001. And then November, I was laid off.
Okay.
And then so I tried to do the unemployment thing, but it was harder than what most people realize to do to get the unemployment.
Are you talking about getting the benefits for unemployment, or
it was a hassle because I got a severance package from US West or Quest. And so I started working as a pizza delivery full time in Highlands Ranch, and realizing that wasn't making enough, and so we had to move into an apartment that my parents had out in Aurora, top of Buckley.
Okay, so close to the Air Force Base.
Yeah, Buckley and Mansfield is the streets that it lives off of, and so I would get up probably around 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd drive to Highlands Ranch to do pizza delivery and manage the store there in Highlands Ranch, and then come back. And I wasn't making enough to make ends meet. So I picked up a second job doing custodial work at our church. And after I'd worked that, I still wasn't making enough to make ends meet. So I picked up a third job doing data entry for a real estate company. Doing data entry. So I would literally get probably about 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night.
So you're preparing yourself for the military.
I was. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You just didn't know it at the time.
Exactly. I didn't know this. And I didn't have any. And the thing that was the hardest part, though, is that I had nothing to offer any employer. I didn't have a degree. I didn't have any education. I didn't have any training. I had some AutoCAD computer-aided drafting stuff, but I didn't have much as far as real life experience. And when I was in high school, I thought about going special forces, the normal 18-year-old. High school thing. I'm going to go special forces. But I was dating my wife at the time, and she tore up my application to the Army at that point in time. And then Um, I worked that from November of 2001 for about a year and a half. So in December of 2002, I enlisted in the Army in the delayed entry program.
So rewind a little bit. 9/11 happens. What's your initial thoughts when that? Because in high school, you're thinking about joining.
Uh-huh.
This catalyst event happens. What were your feelings around?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I was pissed. There's no other way to say it. I was furious as to what had just occurred, and I knew exactly who it was because this is the second time they've tried attacking us. Yeah, it's funny. It was the Twin Towers. Every time they attacked us, it was the Twin Towers.
Mm-hmm.
First one they failed. I think that was back in '83.
You're talking about when they parked in the parking garage
Mm-hmm.
and tried to blow it up.
Yeah, and they sucked at that one too. But then they got some stones, and then they did it the way they did.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew deep down inside who it was, and it infuriated me. But as things went on, the three jobs just weren't panning out. My ex-wife had a really difficult job. She was doing 6 credit hours of college while I'm doing everything else I possibly can do, and she's doing 6 credit hours.
Yeah.
So
that's not even a full. That's like a half class load, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because 12 hours is normal.
12 hours is a normal semester. She was doing 6.
What was the reason?
What
do you assume the reasons to be, right?
She was going in for her nursing, which is a lot of schooling and stuff like that. So, she really wanted to focus on the school to make sure she understood it. Okay. So instead of just blazing through it and barely passing, I was paying for her college, and we were living off of almost welfare, because when I was working at the Domino's Pizza, my manager would tell me to screw up some pizza so that way I could take them home and have food. So, I mean, we were struggling to make, that's how poor we were. But we had a roof over our head. We had heat. We were able to get gas in the cars. I was able to get the FAFSA, the federal aid. And I was paying for her to go to college. And that was the other thing that she was doing 6, is that's all I could afford. So, I did that for as long as I could. And I enlisted in the Army in December of 2002 in the delayed entry program.
And this time she was cool with it?
Yeah, because I showed her, I was like, I said, I wanted to get in law enforcement at that time too. But every time I went in and did an oral board, they're like, do you have any military experience, or what's your experience? I'm like, absolutely nothing. I know how to fight because I got suspended from school a lot for fighting, but they're like, well, right now we're just mainly hiring veterans. And so I was just like, so the age-old question is, how do you hire somebody, or how do you get experience when nobody will hire you? And that's when they told me about the military. Again. And so I looked into it, and I saw the military police.
Right.
And I was like, hey, that looks pretty cool. Because in the brochure, they don't show you that you're deployable. They don't show you that. Yeah. They don't show you the picture of, MPs being deployed to Bosnia, or, all this stuff. They just talk about how you're doing the law enforcement on the posts.
Yeah, and it's everything's stateside.
Yes.
We're going to give you this training.
When you get out, you'll be prepared for law enforcement.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't that way. And so I told her, I was like, you know what? I said, I think this is probably the way we should go. And she's like, all right. I said, think about all the training I can get. And I said, while I'm there, I can also get college education. And she was like, yeah, let's do it. So I enlisted in, like I said, December 2002, and April 15th, 2003 is when I was shipped off to boot camp.
What is the delayed entry program?
So what it is that they didn't have the class set up yet.
Okay.
the basic training portion set up yet. So they had to wait. They had to put me on a waiting list, is what it was.
Okay.
So, and they knew that in April that they were going to have a class available for MPs, and so I was delayed entry into the program until April, until all the classes moved on.
Right.
Because if you look at it, that's 4 months.
Right.
And that's how long basic training was. It was one station unit training for 20 weeks.
So did you sign the contract and then immediately start getting paid, or you just signed the contract and you're like, I'm ready to go when you tell me?
Yep.
Okay. So you continue to work the 3 jobs.
Yep. And
were you just counting down the days?
I couldn't wait. I could not wait, because that's something I've always wanted to do my entire life, is to be in the military.
Yeah.
Looking back now, I kind of wish I'd go back and slap my little kids safe, just be like, do something else, go to college. don't do it. The nightmares will keep you up. But no, they so when April rolled around, I went into MEPS, which is the Military Entrance Processing Station, and I was shipped off to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
We should talk about MEPS a little bit more, because it was the first time in my life that I've ever actually felt violated.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
they have the guy with
strip naked.
Yes.
Squat down, do the duck walk, bend over, touch your toes.
And then you have this doctor with like the biggest sausage fingers to look at places and stuff like that. Yeah.
Anyway.
And we volunteered for it. That's the thing.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it's first time. Like I've never actually been violated, but I can assume it's like that, but 10 times worse. And that was bad enough.
That was horrible.
I started questioning, like, should I really be doing this right now? Like, if this is just the entry, like, what's basic like?
Right.
So
if you're a Marine or Navy, it's just getting you ready for the reality of those 2 branches.
Of being lonely and on a ship.
Yes.
Before they had a lot of female.
That's why they got
sailors.
the name tags on the back end of the pants. So, and so I went into the MEPS.
Yeah.
And then I had the shirt on my back and the pants I was wearing, and they shipped me off to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Where'd you do your MEPS? Was it here in Colorado?
It was in Denver.
Okay, so they put you up in a hotel, or did you spend the last night at your house?
I spent the last night at my house, and I had to be there at 4:00 in the morning. And from that point on, I was in the Army.
Right on, dude. How was that drive in? Like, you finish MEPS, you get back home. Could you sleep that night?
No, I was excited. I was anxious. I was nervous.
How old were you at this point?
23.
Okay. So you're older to go through basic.
Yeah. They considered me the old man in boot camp.
Isn't that bad?
That was horrible. I was like, well, I hate you all too.
I remember when I turned 21 and I was in the military at that point. I joined when I was like 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like the young ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I turned 21, everyone kept calling me old man. Because at that point I was I think it was E4 or E4 or E5 at that point. And it was weird feeling. You really start to feel old, young in the military.
You do.
Because of all the young people you work with.
Mm-hmm.
You're not running. The moment I remember this, the moment I stopped running a 6-minute mile was the moment I was like, oh my God,
I'm old.
I need to retire.
Right.
And it wasn't like a 7-minute, it was like 6:23. Right.
Uh-huh.
But I was giving it my all. And before that, it was like 6-minute miles, no problem. Like I would be trotting. And then the kids on your left, oh my God.
Okay. I'm on your right.
Yeah. You push them off the track.
Exactly. Yeah. Right into the fence or something.
So you can't sleep. You wake up.
I can't sleep. I can't. Yeah. And we
did your
get in
wife
there.
at the time drop you off?
She did.
Was it TIA that you flew out of?
No. So she took me to the MEP station, and from there, I said she saw me swear in, and she left. And from there, I was gone.
Okay.
It was the best day of my life.
And that's when I realized I was going to future divorce her.
Yes. Now there are some other hints along
Red
the way.
flags.
Yes. And so we get to Fort Leonard Wood, and we land, and they have us bury our faces in our duffel bags because they don't want us to see
Where you are.
where we are, so that we can escape. Yeah. I could not wait to change because I've been wearing my clothes for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And no shower, and they're yelling at us because I didn't shave. I'm like, I've been up for 24 hours. What do you want from me? So we get in there and we get into this. They call it reception. It's like, oh, welcome to the military. Welcome to the Army. Little did I know it was like them breaking a boot off in your up your can. So we get in there, and one of the first things they do is they test your hearing. At the time, my hearing was fine.
What?
Yeah, what? Let me turn them up.
I got a little dial over there, so if you can't hear, you can. And if you're going to cough, just press this mute button.
Okay.
Yeah. We're getting fancy up in this studio.
We are. I'm impressed. This is high tech. And then
so test your hearing.
Tested my hearing, and they said
they didn't do that at MEPS.
Mm-mm.
I'm trying to remember when they tested my hearing. I want to say it was day 1 or 2. You're probably right. I do remember them testing my eyes in MEPS.
Yeah.
And that was like the depth perception test.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but that test is hard as hell.
Yeah, it is.
Like I'm sitting there squinting my eyes. They're like, no squinting. And I'm like, sorry.
You're squinting. Sorry.
Meanwhile, I'm going cross-eyed. They're like, are you cross-eyed? I'm like, no, I think I'm just like really stressed and tired.
No, they asked me if I was stressed. I said, no, I'm just stupid. And so they tested my vision. That's when I found out that I have at the time. Now I'm 20. I was 23 at the time. My vision was 2013.
Oh, that's better than perfect.
Mm-hmm. Guess what my vision is now?
Like 2035.
2013.
2013, really?
Still, yeah.
Wow.
That has not changed or anything.
You don't have to squint at all to read a license plate.
Mm-mm. I can read the VIN on the temporary plates in front of us. My
That's
wife
insane.
looks at me. She's like, "You're nuts." I'm like, "Well, yeah."
Yeah. Hawkeye.
Eagle Eye.
I'm going
Yeah.
to start calling you Hawkeye.
I'll take it over some of the other names.
I had to get
called.
I had to get PRK because I was tired. I had to wear those stupid.
Oh, the BCGs.
Oh, yeah, man.
The birth control glasses.
Yeah.
The Steve Urkel
I
glasses.
didn't wear mine. My my MTI military training instructor,
Mhm.
your drill sergeant probably.
Mhm.
Pulled me aside one day and he said, "It says in your profile you're supposed to wear glasses." I said, "Yes, Sergeant." "Where are your glasses?" I said, "They hurt my head, Sergeant." He's like, "Can you see?" I'm like, "I can see fine, Sergeant." He's
Barely.
like, "I was like, when I shoot, I just need them." He's like, "All right, get it on my face right now." "Yes, sir."
You're in mine.
Yeah. So I didn't wear mine very much, but I ended up before my deployment. I decided I was like, if I'm gonna go overseas, I'm not wearing glasses because if I could possibly be involved in something that's going to be life or death, I'll spend the money, get PRK, and have better eyes than my enemy.
Yeah.
So for the first 2 years, I had 2010 vision.
Okay.
Now I'm at like 2015.
Okay.
So it's pretty good. Not as
Yeah.
20 and those little numbers like 15 to 13 are so incrementally better
Mm-hmm.
than the previous.
Mm-hmm.
I can't read those VINs, but my vision's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
And so yeah, I mean, so and then of course, we had to go through this room. I call it the torture chamber because you walk in and you do a right face and you see
you try to because it's day one.
Yeah, I look like an idiot. I mean, I think I made Gomer Pyle look like a star, a rock star. I come into this room and you do a right face, and there are medics staggered around a U-shaped table.
Yeah,
and I'm like, They're like, walk forward, and we had this roll up our sleeves before we go in there. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, just keep walking. I'm walking through, and I felt like a pincushion because I was getting my hepatitis. I was getting my tetanus. I was getting, I don't know what else. I got 7 shots in that one U-shaped room. We come out, and blood's just coming out of both shoulders and stuff like that. I'm like, this is terrible. And then And then they're like, okay, everybody. So they called all the recruits or all the,
Yeah.
at the time we were called trainees. And this is why I never refer to anybody that I'm training as a trainee.
What do you call them?
I just call them the person I'm in training or the person who's in training with me. I don't call them trainee because in the military, we were taught that trainees are lower than whale dung that sinks to the bottom of the ocean and settles. So that's why I never.
It's just in there.
It's just just chiseled in my mind. So when I'm like trainee, I just can't say it,
Yeah.
But I say I have somebody in training with me or something like that. It's just a little bit more of a professional courtesy to the people I'm training now and stuff. So,
well, the thought process in the military is to break you. It's those minor things that really bother you over time. And, it always cracks me up because you meet those people. Oh, I would have joined the military, but I would punch my drill sergeant in the face. And it's like,
try it once.
Yeah, go ahead, try that. But it's those minor things that really bother you over time. Like the minor inconveniences, the get outside right now, get your and do push-ups. Oh, okay, that's fine.
You're paying me to get stronger. Okay.
Yeah, but it's like the little things that they say that it's just like it's nails on chalkboard, and you're like, oh God,
yeah,
and a little bit more of my psyche.
Yeah, and then every time somebody calls and they're like, "Hey, do you have your trainee with you?" I'm like, I have somebody with me in my car. Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, we get all the trainees are back inside this room again, the torture room, and we get this shot in our butt. I don't know.
Oh, the peanut butter.
Yes.
The peanut butter shot.
Yeah, I don't know. That was the most middle. And guess what their solution was to make sure it was getting processed through?
Massage it.
They made us run 2 miles up and down. And now it's April in Missouri.
Yeah.
So it's cold.
Yeah.
And they made us run that they called it the roller coaster hill.
Oh God.
So it is 2 miles. So 2 miles flat, but it's a roller coaster up and down these hills. And so you have to run a mile in and run a mile out. And they're like, how's your ass feeling? Hurt. Go again. Run it back out. And so that was their solution to make sure that the peanut butter shot was taking effect.
Yeah, it's penicillin, but I remember them calling it the peanut butter shot because they're like, it was thick.
So thick.
Oh, it's so thick.
And I was there. So I was there for 20 weeks, and they call it OSET, which is one station unit training.
Let me ask you real quick. Is there multiple locations for the Army's basic?
It depends on what you go in as.
Okay.
So yes, like if you go in if you just want to be a knuckle dragger, infantry, you go in and you can do it at Fort Leonard Wood to your basic, and then they transfer you from basic to your AIT, which is like a Fort Bragg or Fort Sill or something like that.
Okay.
My brother, he went in the military as a medic, and he did his basic at Fort Leonard Wood, but then he went down to San Antonio for AIT.
Right.
So it depends on what you're going in for.
Yeah, because our AIT in the Air Force's tech school.
Okay.
So, but like everybody went to San Antonio. San Antonio, our joint base, Lackland now. Okay. But at that is the hub of all Air Force training. And I knew the Marine Corps had the California station and the Lejeune.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it Lejeune?
The one in California?
Nope. The one in South Carolina.
I don't know.
I know they got one in California and one in South Carolina. I just didn't know, the Army being so large, I didn't know if they had multiple locations, but it sounds like they do it based on your
MOS.
MOS. Yeah.
Which is military occupation specialty.
Yeah. So then was at the time your basic location, did it have any rumors or like expectations for you when you came in? Because I know for the Air Force, again, we just went to one location, but I know the Marines are like, oh, if I'm going to California, it'll be
Parris
a little
Island,
bit,
right?
Yeah, I think so. Parris Island. It'll be a little bit easier. And if I go to South Carolina, it's going to be shit. And I think it's because South Carolina's facility is just older and stuff like that. But
the barracks I was in looked like they were built during World War II. Maybe actually, I don't know if they're old. They were probably built during the Korean War. Their AC ducts were about 3 feet in diameter, and they had little vents poked into the hole, and that was our AC.
Going through the barracks.
Going through the barracks. Yep.
So it didn't work.
No. Drill sergeant's like, "You're hot?" I'm like, "Yes, drill sergeant." He's like, "All right, let's go outside." We're like, "No, we're
I'm
we're-
fine.
Yeah, nope, we're going outside."
Yeah.
I hate you. And then so for 20 weeks I was there,
Okay.
and we had one guy. His name was Sharp. He was not sharp. He was Gomer Pyle.
Really?
He was Gomer Pyle. We actually gave him a blanket party because he was getting us smoked so many times and constantly. We actually ended up, we were getting, like I said, we were getting smoked by the drill sergeants and smoked by, I mean, we were doing front back goes, mountain climbers, push-ups. We had to drag, and of course, he was the smallest guy in the platoon. I mean, he was 6'5", 6'6", and about 260. So what we had to do is work as a platoon to drag him through this chewed up rubber pieces and drag him through that as a platoon. And the drill sergeants are like, "We're not telling you what to do, but we're telling you that you need to do something."
Don't you hate when they tell you that? Because you're like,
Not
I know what I need to do,
but
if I get caught,
but did you just give us permission? That's the
Yeah.
other question. And so, one night he got the blanket party with soap and socks, and everybody took turns wailing on him.
we're just trying to get him washed back.
We were either trying to get him washed out or shape up.
Yeah. What
And
happened?
He shaped up a little bit.
Enough to where you're not getting smoked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sadly, it felt very satisfying giving him that blanket party because I was so frustrated with him. So, and then drill sergeants call it back in and stuff like that. They're like, "Hey, Stark, you need to go to reception." I was like, "What'd I do?" I'm used to going to the principal's office all the time because I was in trouble all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was like, "Great, what did I do?" So I go and they're like, "Okay, so you have to pick 3 overseas stations that you want to go to. One of them has to be Korea, and then 1 stateside for your stations." I was like, "Okay, for your post is what we call them."
Yeah.
It's like, "Okay." I said, "Well, I'll pick Korea for my first one." I said, "Germany and Italy." They're like, "All right, what about stateside?" I said, "Hawaii." And they're like, "No."
It's got to be CONUS.
Yeah. And so I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Well, I'm from Colorado, so why not Fort Carson?" They stationed me at Fort Carson.
Dude, that sucks.
Yep. I was 60 miles away from home from where I grew up.
It's like a blessing and a curse, though.
Yeah, it
You
was. I mean, it was nice because so we graduated on my birthday. We graduated from boot camp and AIT on August 22nd, 2003. It was so cool. The whole post came in to celebrate my birthday. It was so cool. And so what we did is my mom, my dad, my brother, and some of my friends and my wife came. They picked me up, and we went to Fort Carson. And they're like, "You know what? Take a couple weeks off, reacclimate to how your life has now changed because you haven't seen your wife in 20, 21 weeks."
Right.
And they're like, "You're going to be different." And
Just from basic alone.
alone, no combat experience or anything. Like I remember one of the coolest things we ever did is we threw frag grenades. And this is when we figured out how stupid Sharp was, right? He pulled the pin and he threw the frag grenade, and there's a 6-foot wall that you're supposed to hunker down behind. So because a frag explodes up and out, right, with shrapnel.
Right.
Sharp is standing over the wall, looking over the wall because he wants to watch it explode.
Oh my God.
This is how stupid this guy was. So I mean, we got to do stuff like that. And then we started doing bayonet training. And we went through obstacles with our bayonets. And I mean, it was just, what's funny though, is I got more sleep in basic than I ever did my time.
And it's good sleep too.
It was hard sleep.
Yeah.
It was hard sleep. But no, I actually got more sleep during boot camp than I ever did when I was working those 3 jobs. Everybody's like, man, I got 3 hours of sleep. I'm like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
This is the best 3.5 hours ever. So get down to Fort Carson. I check into my battalion command sergeant major. And he's like, have you ever deployed? I'm like, no, I just got out of boot camp.
He knows that.
Yeah. I'm like, are you really that stupid? But then he's like, guess where you're going to go? I'm like, somewhere with starts with an I imagine.
Yeah.
He's like, you're going to deploy to Iraq. That's what I kind of figured since I joined during a war, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, you leave in 2 weeks.
So you get to your state. Hold up. You get out of basic.
I had 2 weeks of vacation.
Yeah.
And then in 2 weeks I left. So I was deployed in October of 2003 to Iraq.
Holy shit.
Yep.
That's a quick turnaround, man.
We were attached to the 1st Marines.
Did you, how'd the wife take it?
Well, she's an ex for.
Well, how'd the ex, the wife at the time, how did the wife at the time take it?
She was devastated. Honestly, I think there were more tears of joy than they were
on your behalf.
Yeah. Oh, she was like, oh, thank God he's gone. But no, I think she was very distraught. And while I was overseas, they started setting up ISDN lines. So that way we could have webcam conferences and stuff like that with people at home and stuff. And one time I got on and checked our bank account.
Mm-hmm.
There were so many charges to Victoria's Secret and ATM withdrawals from our account. So I called my mom and I told her, I'm like, hey, her name's Jennifer. I said, what's Jennifer doing? She's like, I don't know. She won't talk to us. She won't leave Fort Carson. She's down Colorado Springs all the time. And so I'm in Kuwait in April of 2004, getting ready to come back. And the one few times I was able to ever to make a phone call, I call and this guy answers the phone. I was like, hey, is Jennifer there? And he's like, it's your effing husband, and hands her the phone. Yeah. So that was a clue that something was awry.
Holy shit, dude. I thought Dear John letters were bad.
Yeah, that was, yeah. And that was very common though. Especially for,
yeah.
Unfortunately, it was common.
Unfortunately, it's still common.
Yeah.
In active duty culture.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gotten a little bit better over the years because people see the after effects.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously you guys got divorced.
Yep.
I don't know how she's doing, but most of the time they're normally not doing that well.
Yep.
So yeah.
She is actually, so she was cheating on me with another soldier.
Isn't that shitty too?
Yeah.
That is actually the normal culprit.
It is.
Jody.
Yep. And he quickly
Jody
got
has a
promoted.
Jody about them.
Yes. Yeah. And so Jennifer was like, I don't like how you are anymore. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, you're totally different. I was a pushover when she and I were first married, when we were dating. I had no backbone to stand up for myself. I let people walk all over me. And she was one of them. She was the biggest culprit of it. And so when she saw me, when I got home from boot camp, she realized that she wasn't going to be able to do that. And I think that's what kind of triggered everything else that happened. So I get home.
Well, hold on. I want to rewind back to the deployment.
Okay, go ahead.
If that's cool with you.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine.
So you get over you get the orders that you're going overseas.
Mm-hmm.
You have your little cry session. tears of joy, sadness, whatever.
For me, there were tears of joy too, because I was really looking forward to getting away from her.
Well, and it's like everyone joins the military to deploy for the
And-
most part.
And also, so because I mean, if we think back, this is what I wanted to do ever since 9/11.
Yeah.
I wanted to go get the guys, even though they were dead in the airplanes. But
Well, and they're all in. I won't say the country.
yeah,
They're all from a certain country that we didn't even invade.
yeah.
But that's
Starts
neither here
with-
nor there.
Starts with an A, but
Yep.
anyway, Asia,
Southeast Asia.
more Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So-
So anyway, so you're on the plane, you're deploying.
Mhm.
You're with the first Marine group.
I was attached to the First Marines. Yep. When we went over,
Did they tell you what you were going to be doing there? Was it like security based? Was it expedition based?
they
Did they
didn't.
give you any information?
Nope.
Okay, so you boots in the ground. First reaction. Plane
I-
doors open.
I knew that it was real because as soon as I get there, I get a little acclimated to the time change and stuff like that. And my first patrol out, we were driving around Victory Base. And that was our job. We were patrolling, securing the facility or securing the base. And I was there a week. And we had this huge explosion. Right, we were walking into the chow hall, which is our DFAC or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
our slop, and we were almost into the building, and all of a sudden we hear this huge explosion come from behind us. We're like, "Well, that's us." I'm like, "What are we doing?" They're like, "We're going towards that." I'm like, "But I want to go that way." They're like, "Nope, everybody is running away from that way, so that's where we're going." We load up and we go out there and we see a crater. It was about a foot deep, about maybe a foot and a half wide. And it looked like somebody took some tomato paste mixed in with chicken bones and threw it against the Victory Base wall. And we found out that some intelligent insurgent planted an anti-tank mine. And on the top of it, so it's what it's designed to do is that when it feels a pressure, it detonates. So that
Mhm.
way it blows off the treads of the tank and disables the tank. Well, this intelligent individual buried it, and what's a natural thing to do when you bury something? He patted it down. He blew himself up.
My God.
This is when
Isn't that crazy that I knew that? It's like you bury something, and you're like,
He
yes.
patted it down and he blew himself up.
Oh my God.
This is when
This is downtown
Baghdad.
Baghdad. Okay.
Yep,
That was a shitty base.
it was.
That's like possibly the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Working in security forces and working with integrated base security, there's like zero standoff.
Mm-hmm.
People can go into buildings down the way, pop off rounds into the base.
Yep.
Looking at pictures of it, man, it's fucking like I don't know why they took that, but anyway, go ahead.
I don't know either. And so we started following the body parts from the explosion site. We're following them across the street, and all of a sudden the body parts stopped. Found the torso of the insurgent on the third floor of the building. We had to go upstairs and pick it up.
Oh my God, he crawled.
No, he exploded that far away.
Oh, I thought it blew up his bottom half and he crawled that far.
Nope, it blew him
Oh,
out of his
man.
sandals. So what happened is that this is when I started to develop that law enforcement military sense of humor, right? It was at the explosion site. His sandals were still there. So it blew him completely out of his sandals. And I started laughing. My sergeant was like, "What?" I said, "That'd be a great Tiva commercial." So that's when my sense of humor
Yeah.
started the way it is, and it's just gotten worse now.
Well,
But-
it's a trauma coping mechanism.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So
Yep. And
shit happens.
Yep. And so we go over, we find this guy on the third floor of this building. And so since I was the new guy, I had to go to the 3rd floor. I had to go up and pick up dead dude and this other private, and I were carrying this guy down the stairs, and also we hear this splat, 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 splat behind us. Like, what the, where we look back, his entrails are still attached to his chest, and they're in his intestines and everything are following us down the stairs.
That's gross.
So we had to go back up, pick him up, and carry him down. So it was stuff like that. And because I knew what was going on at home, I was having a hard time staying awake. I was falling asleep in the tower.
Mm.
My sergeant found me a couple times, and he made me carry around a little rock. He made me paint it.
Is your little pet rock?
Yeah, it was Snuggles. I had to name it. So it was Snuggles. And I had to have it with me. Otherwise, I was going to get smoked. So everywhere I went, Snuggles went with me. And so just before we went back home, I was actually able to throw Snuggles back into the river because he was done with that. So get back home. We get back to reception. So, you know, how you see the welcome home ceremonies and everybody's all crying and stuff like that, right?
So that was your first deployment. That was pretty much the major points in that deployment.
Oh no, there were.
Oh, come on, man!
Okay.
Rewind a little bit. So you're. It sounds like you're doing a lot of base security, some outside of the wire stuff.
It was all outside of the wire.
Okay.
It was all outside. The patrols that we did were all outside.
And what were they? What were the primary, like, hearts and minds at this point, or just walking targets? Just
secure the facility.
Okay.
That's all we were told to do, is just secure the facility, secure the base. And if anything occurs outside of the wall, we had to go.
Okay.
So we're doing our patrol around the building, and we get shot at from the 2nd story building.
Okay.
Okay.
Right outside, adjacent, or okay.
Yeah, just during our normal patrols, and we get out of our cars, our Humvees, and we had this one sergeant there. His name was Sergeant Thornton. I called him Billy Bob because he was
Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton, because he was about as intelligent as Billy Bob. And so Billy Bob is sitting here. He's like, well, we don't know where the threat is. We're like, well, we know it's in that building there, genius. Let's shoot a flare in there. He's like, nah, no, I'm not comfortable with that. He's like, we don't know where he's at. Hence the flare, Billy Bob. Let's just shoot a flare into that building and figure out where he's at. He's like, I'm not comfortable with that. It's like, fine, I'll do it. Just give it to me. I'll do it. So he hands me the 203. And it was a red flare. I remember that specifically. So I was across the street, probably a little bit back, and the 2nd story is over here, and I shot the flare into the building. Also, I didn't know that a flare would start running up and down the hallway in a building.
Oh shit!
What happened is it could never happen again. It was just a luck of the draw. Come to find out that Insurgent was coming out the window that he shot at us before, where I shot the flare into. I was far enough away to it because it's 35 meters from the time that you fire it to where it explodes in order for it to be effective. Right. So that you get the ooh-ah stuff, right? Yep. Apparently I was at 36 meters because that flare exploded into the window as Insurgent came out the window. And so the phosphorus ignited, stuck to him, and it killed him. So the joke of the unit was, I don't need bullets, I just need flares. So that was
a hell of a lot of luck too. Holy shit, dude.
Yes. That just tells you God told me it was not my time to go.
Yeah.
So that's when I knew God was watching over me.
I bet he felt enlightened.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he just saw the future, you know. Here's your future. I can never do it again. And so it was
were IEDs pretty big at that time too?
Absolutely.
Were they doing the copper plate shit?
They were doing it in dead animals.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah. Like they would kill a donkey and put it on the side of the road. So as you're driving through, the donkey would explode and you're just completely covered in
Donkey shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything else too. Yeah. And then they started trying to put ball bearings inside of them. Yeah. And then it was just like that the whole time.
So for 6 months?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 6 to April. Yeah. October. Yeah. October to April. Yep. It was so funny. We had the towers spread along the walls of Victory Base, and 82nd Airborne was there. Our sergeant major, who was over there, would not let us wear the 1st Marines combat patch.
Because you didn't like Marines, or
Who likes the Marines? But no,
that's
no,
true. They're pretty badass.
Yeah,
they're pretty badass dudes. They're very willing to die.
Second deployment, I would disagree on that one.
We'll get into that.
Yes, we will.
The Marines I have met, and granted, this is from an Air Force standard, right?
Right.
But to go off on a side tangent, when Iran launched the missiles back in 2021, maybe it was 2020, forgot what year I deployed. It was right after we killed al-Salami in Iraq, and then they retaliated and launched missiles. We came up with a whole operational plan to invade Iran, to basically give Donald Trump, like, if you want this, we're ready. Right. So I was at Al Yassalim working at Al Mubarak Air Base, and then also stopping off at Jabber, working with all the bases doing integrated base security. So I knew some of the Marines, and I was calling them. I'm like, hey, are you guys like pumped for this? And they're like, we cannot wait. Meanwhile, the airmen are like, I didn't sign up for this. And I'm like, what the fuck did you sign up for? Right?
What did you think you're going to do?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
So anyway, wouldn't let you wear the patch.
They wouldn't let us wear the patch until 82nd Airborne came in. 82nd Airborne, All America, AAA, AAA, came in, and so we quickly got attached to them. So that was our combat patch.
The
82nd Airborne,
not the Marine Corps.
Not the Marine Corps.
Right on.
I don't know. And so 82nd Airborne was stationed in the towers. They were like, okay, cool. Better
Gives
you
you
guys.
a break.
Yeah. I'm sick of sitting on the towers. I'm sick of sleeping in them.
Yeah.
And so one night, a 82nd Airborne radios, he's like, I need QRF, the Quick Response Force, to respond to this sector.
Mm-hmm.
And he's returning fire, and he's getting shot at, and he's trying to. There's a delay between the shooting and his radio transmissions. We're trying to figure out what in the world's taking him so long. Come to find out that he was stationed in that tower by himself. He started getting shot at, and one of the bullets went through his neck. Grazed his neck, but you could actually see an entrance and an exit wound, right? This guy, he was such a bamf. He was plugging the hole, getting on the radio, telling everybody what's going on, and pick up the rifle, continue to shoot, put down the rifle, pick it up. Hey, I still got more coming. As he's plugging the bullet hole with his hand, he runs out of ammo. That's the only time he ever took his hand off the wound, reload, and so he can go back and just continue firing.
What do you think? His karate got shot or something?
I don't know.
Like
but
anyway,
the fact that he stayed in the fight,
that's legit, man.
I admired that guy, you know. And so that was probably, again, right at the beginning of my deployment there. I was like, okay, this is
real.
This is real. The fecal matter just hit the ceiling, the oscillating fan, you know. I was just like, okay, things have just gotten real. A couple months later, I had the sergeant. He was dumb. He was a fueler. And he sees this guy with a bullet hole right here. He's like, hey, are you the guy who got shot in the neck? I'm like, no, he cut himself shaving. What do you think that guy is?
They didn't send him home?
Nope. He wanted to stay. He's like,
man.
He's like, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to fight. So those guys were legit.
Yeah.
the 82nd, 101st that we trained to replace us. Those guys were
Dialed in.
dialed in.
Yeah.
They were ready to go rock and roll. And so we get home. And as soon as I get home, like I was saying, the welcome home ceremony. Oh, we love you. We missed you. My wife walks up to me and hands me divorce papers.
Right off the plane.
Right off the plane. Yeah. It wasn't as bad as one of my fellow soldiers because his wife walked up to him. She's 9 months pregnant. We've been gone for a year.
Row, Raggy.
Yeah.
I swear it's yours.
Yeah. You did it from clear over there. You're so good.
You're so fertile.
He hit her.
You know that one night you were staring at my picture? It just happened.
Yeah, it's so weird how this happened. And so he actually laid her out. He punched her in the face and he actually knocked her out right there. And MPs were like, we're going to take him. I mean, it was hard because he's a fellow MP. He just got back home.
DV's a DV, though.
Well, they didn't. They chalked it up to the PTSD.
Yeah.
And they didn't pursue any charges because he just got home. Everything else that was going on.
Yeah.
So they just kind of swept it.
Yeah.
I get home that night and I was talking to Jennifer, and I had some new clothes and stuff like that because my other clothes didn't fit because I was a fatty when I was joining the Army, and I was 180 at that time, and I was benching 205. Those were my rep, so it wasn't my one-time max. So I was solid. I was running my 2 miles in 14 minutes, and so I was in pretty good shape. I remember looking through the house. I'm trying to find some scissors and stuff like that. I'm like, where is everything? She's like, oh, there's something I need to tell you. I'm like, okay. She's like, I was like, well, you kind of told me everything when you gave me the divorce papers at the welcome home ceremony. It's kind of obvious. Yeah. And I said, where's the knives? I'm trying to find the scissors and stuff like that because I had tags to cut off and everything else. And she's like, I gave them to our next door neighbor because I was afraid you're going to hurt me. And I said, what made you think I would hurt you? She's like, you just seem more aggressive. And I looked at her. I said, sweetheart, I don't need those things to hurt you if I needed to.
Right.
And
Plus, it's like you're two adults, right?
Yeah.
You're 25, 24 at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can have a fucking conversation.
Yeah. And that's when I told her, I was like, if I really wanted to hurt you, I don't need those things.
Right.
And she's like, I'm scared of you. I'm like, you shouldn't be scared of me. Your boyfriend should be.
Yeah.
And I said, what's his name? She's like, I'm not telling you. I was like, okay. And I said, well, there are 3 jobs in the military you don't screw with. One's finance.
Yeah, because they'll fucking ruin your day, man.
Mm-hmm. Second one's medics. Mm-hmm. And the third one's MPs. I said, your boyfriend screwed with the wrong MOS.
Oh, because every time he goes on that base,
everybody was looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
I found out his name was Josh Clark. And he was in the 4th ID. And every MP on Fort Carson was looking for him. And all of a sudden, he got orders to PCS.
Shock.
To Alaska.
Did she go with him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it took me a while to learn how to forgive her.
Yeah.
I have forgiven her. So anyway, she went up to Alaska with Josh. They got married and they have 2 kids, and they actually live down in Amarillo, Texas now.
So you guys never had kids together?
Thank God, no.
That makes it easier.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a lack of better words, easy divorce, quick and easy, so to speak. And so, we got divorced in August 5th, 2000, 2004. Yeah, 2004 is when our divorce was finalized.
Do you want to know how old I was at this point?
No, I don't.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, I know how old you were. We worked together for a while. And so all my buddies took me out to Hooters for a bachelor party because they're like, hey, you're a bachelor again. And so nothing like
It's like a reverse bachelor party.
Yeah. So
that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, they rallied around me, and that's when I met, got closer to one of my best friends. His name was Justin Blackwell, who was later killed over in Iraq.
On your second deployment?
It was supposed to be my third.
Okay.
But because I was getting medically discharged,
you didn't go.
I didn't go, but he did, and that's when he got killed. I was supposed to be his sergeant on that tour. But anyway, Justin and I, we got really, really close. He was honestly my best friend. We'd go to PT together. We were almost inseparable. We were that close of friends. He helped me through my divorce. After the divorce, I became such a raging alcoholic. I would get up, I'd drink, I'd just continue the hangover for months, on end. He would drive me everywhere.
Did you ever work drunk?
I did. I can qualify drunk.
That's good to know.
Yeah,
I'm a little scary to know. But.
Well, I just shot the closer targets. So, and then,
did no one catch on?
Justin and I hit it. We hit it from everybody.
How long did you go on for?
It was like that way for about 6 months.
And this is right after the divorce?
Mm-hmm. And then we found out. And so it was so we got back in April, right? Mm-hmm. So from April until October, that was completely trashed. And then we found out we're getting ready to deploy again to our second tour. This time it was going to be in Mosul. At the time,
Mosul is where?
It's north of Iraq, just south of Turkey.
Okay.
It was the next Fallujah. It was intense. That's where I got into most of my shootings. That's when I saw. It was a hotbed. It was Fallujah only lasted for like a few days.
Right.
Mosul they were sending Delta and SF in there because it was so out of control. And here comes 59th MP Company right inside.
Extra bodies.
Yes. Here you go. Here's some cannon fodder for you guys.
Yeah. I only sigh and like kind of get annoyed at that because it's like the amount of training. We'll just say Rangers, right? Like, because Delta is I would put Delta and SEALs at like neck and neck with if you need to kill somebody, those two guys are the ones that go in. Rangers are a step above infantry, a big step, but
they're still a specialized unit for sure.
Yes. But the thing that gets me is like the cannon fodder aspect of the military still exists well into modern day. Even when we were coming up with the operation plan to invade Iran, it was still very much like okay, these guys will do most of the work, but you're going to be there with them. And it's like, these dudes have been training for 8 months out of the year. Yeah. Last year, we've got maybe 3 months of a spin up. So it's annoying.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to send somebody into a combat situation, there should be intense training beforehand. Regardless of if you're special forces or if you're just another body, cannon fodder. But,
yeah. Well,
so you get orders
that we're
alcoholic at this time.
And Justin had a hard talk with me. And he's like, I need you to be on your game.
Because you knew where you were going.
We knew.
Okay.
We knew where we were going. And he said, I want that old David back, not this.
Right.
And so I sobered up, and that's when I started really honing in on my abilities of
Right.
shooting. Qualified expert on all my weapons, the SAW, the 240 Bravo, and the M4.
At this time, were you a sergeant?
No, I was still
Okay.
a specialist. I was
Okay.
an E4. I went in as an E3, as a PFC,
Okay.
because I had some college.
Yeah.
And then I got promoted to specialist.
Between deployments.
Yeah, which is an E4.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think Justin might have said something to some of the supervisors because he was concerned for me. So they took me out of the line unit and had me attached to the headquarters. So I worked with the supply guys. I worked with the motor pool. I worked with those guys. But when orders came down, they put me back in a line unit.
Right.
And so I started qualifying expert with everything.
You got your shit together.
I did because I knew where we were going, what we were heading into, what the enemy was. And I had a better idea of what I was getting into. And so I was shooting one day, and my captain commander, or my commander of the unit, came up, Captain Squizzero. He comes walking up, and he sees me shooting, and he said, "What are your aspirations?" I said, "I just want to do my job. That's what I want to do." I said, "If that means kill somebody, I'll kill somebody." I said, "I have no hesitation as to that." And he looked at my PT scores. I took all the frustration about my divorce and then quitting the alcoholism and stuff like that, and turned it into PT. If I felt like having a drink, I went running. If I felt like having a drink, I would go to the gym. I was very disciplined in that. And so it got to the point where I was under 14 minutes at Fort Carson running 2 miles. Under 14. And the commander, Captain Squizzero, I call him Captain Squizzy. Squizzy told me, he's like, "I want you to be my PSD, which is personal security detail." I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Because you've shot expert multiple times." He's like, "I want you to be my PSD." I was like, "Okay." I said, "Whatever you want me to do, sir, I'll do it." So we deployed in February of 2005 to Mosul, and we were there for 12 months.
Fuck. It's a long ass time.
It was. And the only vacation I took was at Christmas time. So I was there for 10 months before I got a vacation. Because I was under the mindset, I had the mindset of a sergeant, even though I wasn't, to make sure that the other Joes before me got their vacations. I had nobody, I didn't have anybody to go home to. So in February of 2005, I was at my church, and one of my friends, who's a retired cop now, he had a daughter. His name's Megan, or her name was Megan. And she and I started pen paling when I was over at Assis. And so for 10 months, we got to know each other really well. And we started dating in December of 2005. She's my wife
When you
now.
went on vacation.
Yep. Yeah. And we've been together ever since.
It's amazing.
Yeah. We've been together for 18 years, but we've been married for 15 this year. So I definitely married up. She settled. Just kidding. Just kidding. She married me out of sympathy. No, but
you're kind of like that stray dog that people find. They're like, "Oh, I guess if I squint, he's kind of cute."
Oh yeah, depends how much I drink. He's really cute, but And so when I was deployed in February of '05, she and I started pen paling, and I had some really hard days. Almost got decapitated because
From what?
what the insurgents were doing is that they were taking piano wire and stretching it across alleyways.
Oh,
And since I was a gunner, because Squizzy wanted me to be first shooting because of the way I scored, he wanted me in the turret. And so I was the rear guard of the 3-car convoy. And this piano wire hit me in the back of the neck. And the natural thing to do is to push back. And that's actually what decapitates you, is because you're pushing back, you're actually forcing it through.
right. It's like a snap.
Yep. And so I remember the intel that we were getting about them doing this. And so as soon as I felt it, I went with it instead of fighting against it. And the piano wire came up and ripped my helmet off of my head, broke the strap. And I remember standing there in the turret and seeing my helmet go tumbling down the back of the Humvee. I was like, can we stop? They're like, why? I said, I got to get my helmet. It's right there. So we went down, picked it up. And then the insurgents started to mold the IEDs into the concrete of the sidewalk. So you couldn't see it. Because normally if you see a dead animal on the side of the road,
You stop.
You stop or you go wide.
Or you just
right?
shoot a 40 mic at it real quick.
See what happens, yeah. But since they were starting to do that, we couldn't tell where they were, and then they started covering them with boxes. And so because of that, my Captain Squizzy was able to get these things called warlocks. Have you ever heard? Did you guys ever hear of those?
No, I'm familiar. The only thing that with counter IED that I've ever heard of are like the radio transmitter thing.
That's what it was. It's a warlock.
Okay. Yeah. It basically shuts off all radio transmission within a certain bubble.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It was 100
I thought
feet.
that's what they were called, but I forgot what they were called.
Yeah. And since I had the commander in my car, I had the warlock in my car.
Of course.
Right? And we were always the middle car.
Well, they always try to hit the middle too.
Yep.
Because it immobilizes. Well, either the first one's going to stop and support, the back one can't go anywhere
because the middle's dead.
Right.
And so that's why he had it in his car. I say car; it's a Humvee.
Yeah.
It's
was it armored up at all?
It was an up armored Humvee. Yeah.
Okay.
The door was 350 pounds.
Yeah, I only asked because at the very beginning, they didn't have shit.
No,
it was like you're lucky if you have a tarp.
Yeah,
to keep some in the sand. But
we took our old flak jackets and put those on the door.
Yeah,
and then we used sandbags underneath on the floorboards to absorb the IED. Yep. That was our first Humvee over there. So when we went over
the second
time,
you had this nice Cadillac of a Humvee.
Exactly. I was like, oh, this thing is so cool.
God, I need the commission. Is this what I get if I commission?
Yeah.
They actually have padded seats.
I never knew because I sat on it a 2-inch strap.
Well, yeah.
That was my seat.
There and use the little foot pedals to move your turret around.
And so we
and it's not fast either.
No, it's not. Well, again, the difference between our Air Force and Army, mine was just ball bearings and grease,
so
and
it was yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, no, we had little motorized ones.
I had a handle where I popped it, and I was actually pretty good at it because if something was coming up on our side, I was able to pop it, and as the driver would turn, I would use the
momentum of
the momentum to keep
then lock it in.
Yeah, lock it in pretty quickly and grab my rifle. So I had a lot of experience with that.
Yeah. Useless now.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Unless we go to war again.
Yeah, or I could drive the Bearcat.
That is true.
Yeah.
Shoot some gas.
And so we used to, because of we were a support unit during that deployment, we were training the Iraqi police.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. The other terrorist group that's over there.
Yeah.
A lot of the Jordanians were getting trained by us how to do the room clearing, how to shoot. and that's what we were doing over there. We were training them our tactics.
Yeah.
And so since we were such a large unit, I mean, it's like 150 soldiers, right? And so they took 2 platoons, put one into Tikrit, another one in Tel Afar, and then the other 2 and the headquarters. So there was 3 bases or 3 platoons and in Mosul, and the other 2 were in those other places. We had to drive up IED Alley to go check on those units.
How often?
Weekly, multiple times weekly.
How'd that feel? Because I know after a while when I was driving around, I was just kind of like,
it's going to happen. Just
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah. If it happens, it's like blowing out a tire. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yep. And
but
so
the initial
first couple times it was scary.
Yeah.
But
everything looks like an IED.
Yeah. Yep.
What is that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a paper bag. Okay.
Yeah. Like we were shooting boxes with our mod deuces with our 50 cals.
Yeah. Just to get them to roll.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then like you were saying, instead of shooting it with a 50 or with a 40, I shot it with a 50 cal.
That'll make an IED go off.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
There were sometimes it did.
You just hope it's not that big.
Yes.
Based on distance.
Yes. And I mean, and the commander was like, okay, are we far enough away? I'm like, yeah, I think we're okay.
Oh, shit.
Oh, that was 105 millimeter artillery around there. I didn't know that one. But hey, we're good, sir. Yeah. And we'll just kind of go around the crater now that used to be the road.
Were culverts bad when you were over there?
Were what?
Culverts.
Like
the little holes between the roads.
Those were just starting out.
Yeah, that really pissed us off a lot.
No.
Like, can you please stop putting IDs in the fucking culverts? Please. Not only are you blowing up the whole road, so now we got to find an alternate route.
Yep.
But it's like, it's a pain in the ass. Because you got to get out, you walk up, clear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there's something in there. Okay, call EOD. Waiting 2 hours. And you're like, how much water do we have left?
Right. Yep. Yeah. When we had we were heading up to one of our units up in Tikrit. Tikrit is northwest of Mosul. We drove up there and we were coming back and we saw an anti-personnel mine right there on the side. So we secured the area. We secured the scene. We're sitting there. Complacency's kicking in because we made that trip multiple times. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, oh, this is stupid. Okay, let's just get the bomb squad out here and let's just kind of let them do their thing or whatever.
Did you do your 5, 25, 50?
What do you mean?
Sweets. So anytime you get out, dismount, you do your 5.
We never dismounted.
You just sat in the car?
We sat in the car and just waited for EOD to come up and detonate this thing, right?
Oh, God.
And we kept our warlocks on.
Yeah.
So that way they couldn't detonate it. And I remember sitting there, and the intersections over there they're huge. So if you can think, you've been to Parker.
Yep. So
you know Parker Road and Main Street.
Yep.
How big that intersection is? That's the average intersection over in Iraq. And I remember sitting there and I see this orange and white taxi cab. Everybody drives an orange and white taxi cab over in Iraq.
Right.
So the intel came out, hey, we have intelligence on a possible suicide bomber on a orange and white taxi cab. Are we supposed to shoot every single taxi cab that comes near us?
What authorization am I getting here?
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, I'm just like, that's weird because he's slowing down in the intersection. I'm kind of looking at him. I'm like, that's different. But of course, I'm not taking it seriously because people are getting out of the cars all the time.
Yeah.
At random places because that's just what they do. This guy gets out and all of a sudden he pulls up his rifle and and this is why they couldn't shoot very well is because they were doing the gangster shooting down the side of the barrel. They weren't using the sights. But when we started training these guys on how to shoot, we tell them to pull the sight straight up.
Right.
So I look over and I see this barrel and I see the magazine and everything kind of sweeping off to the side. I'm like, uh-oh. And so I'm kind of watching him and I'm just trying to process everything that's kind of happening because it's happening quickly. Squizzy's like, hey, I'm getting out. I look down. I was like, what? And he's trying to talk to me. He's right here. And I'm still looking at this guy. And I'm like, what?
And you're still number 2 car?
Yeah. And we're just stationary at this
Right.
time. And I pull my earmuff away. I was like, what, Squizzy? I said, I can't hear you. Because we had headphones kind of like these that were plugged into the car.
Yeah.
And they had the boom mic so that way we could talk to each other.
Yeah, because Humvees are very loud.
Yes. Yes, they are. And Squizzy's like, hey, I'm unplugging. So he unplugs and he's just standing right here outside the door talking to me. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on this guy. I'm looking down, trying to listen what's going on. So I pull the earmuff away. I'm like, what? And that's when I heard the bullet whiz past where my head was just at. So I thank God Squizzy got out of the car.
Yeah.
And I saw the guy.
What was the authorization for engaging at that point?
Oh, I shot back.
Well, so what I ask is like,
Right.
there's a lot of
PID.
people. Well, there's a lot of people that carry guns over there, so you can't just shoot everybody that carries a
Right.
gun.
Right.
And sometimes they carry fucking RPKs. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like full on machine guns,
And
not just the
RPGs
AK.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Well, the RPGs a little bit for our engagement was a little bit more lenient, but I'm
Right.
talking like the RPK, the longer version of the AK-47.
Yep.
But I knew like we couldn't engage anybody that was just carrying a gun.
Right.
We would have to wait for a hostile act.
For them to
So-
point it at you
Yeah.
or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
We had to have PID, positive identification.
Okay.
And so since I was watching this guy, I knew who he was. And so, like I said, I was just kind of keeping an eye on him, leaning down, listening to Squizzy.
And this is happening within seconds.
Yeah. And then as soon as I heard that round go cranking off where my head was just at, I grabbed my saw and I shot. He was 300 meters away from me.
It's pretty far.
But that's what I qualified on.
Right.
With the saw, with my M4, everything, except for my 9mm. But, and I remember I shot a couple rounds and I missed because he's running through the intersection now. So I start to lead him doing the Kentucky windage, and I did 3 rounds of 6-round bursts, and I hit him majority of the time. I can remember seeing the red mist come
Yeah, I
flying
would
off
say
of him and
split in
stuff like
half.
that.
Yeah.
As he's running through. And then as he ran behind the corner of a building, I remember seeing the mortar of the building coming off. And so Squizzy's like, what you got? I said, got a dead dude. For sure.
Because he doesn't really know what's going on.
No, he's no clue
unplugged.
because he's on the other side. He's
Right.
unplugged. He just has no
Like,
clue.
all he knows is
All he knows is like
yeah.
Stark's shooting. That's all he knew. That's all he knew.
Yeah.
And my driver jumps out and he starts popping rounds off. I was like, what are you shooting at? He's like, you're a bad guy. I'm like, he's dead on the other side of the building. I said, we need to go get him.
Yeah.
But since we were securing the scene for this IED, we
Couldn't
couldn't
move.
go.
Yeah.
So we called in the infantry QRF, and they went over and they checked, and they said they're like, there was so much blood all over the place.
Yeah.
But there were tire tracks in the middle of it.
Oh.
So what happened is that the taxi that he was in drove up, picked him up, and threw him in the car, and they took off.
So you never got a confirmed kill?
Mm-mm.
Did you get a confirm with the flare?
Yeah, but that actually was not considered.
A confirm like a
Yeah,
because it wasn't intentional.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
lucky oops
Yeah.
type thing. And
So for the civilian listeners, so in the military, commissioned officers are the ones that confirm like death, and so like enlisted can engage, but we can never confirm, even if the person is split in half.
Mhm.
Can't confirm that they're dead. So that's why they take them, and then they do iris scans and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
see if they're in a terrorist database and stuff. So
Yep.
So anyway, you wait. QRF gets there.
QRF gets there, and they said there was so much blood, there's no way he survived, but no data on him.
Yeah.
So I had to write a report. And I was like, okay, well, that's it, you know. And I was like, oh, hopefully this is the only one I have, and it it wasn't. There were
A lot
multiple.
more engagements.
There were a lot more. After
Is
that,
it because you were doing that route weekly?
that's what I'm thinking. And so we started to get a lot more heat on that route. So we started driving
Yeah.
through the bazaars.
Okay.
Um,
The bazaars being are those
The
the
marketplace.
orchards? Oh, okay.
the marketplace.
Do they have orchards there too?
I don't remember the orchards. No,
Okay.
I just remember lots and lots and lots of people and cars. And you think the traffic is bad here in Colorado? It is nothing compared like it is there. I mean, we hit a car one time running because they're supposed to yield to us as we're coming through the intersection.
Right.
One guy didn't, and we split his little taxi cab in half. We just kept on
Just
going.
kept going. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, so the problem with stopping is that could be the ambush catalyst,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
Like, oh, go sacrifice yourself. They'll stop. They'll check on you, and then we'll just engage everybody.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
What a way to fight war, dude.
It's been crazy. It was crazy. And then and so we changed up our routes.
Yeah.
We went through the bazaar one time and we got ambushed. There was mortars going off all around.
So somebody got intel that you were going to go through that.
Did you ever see Black Hawk Down?
Yeah.
You know how you see on how the people are starting to vacate the
Oh, yeah.
road? That's what was happening.
That's a red flag.
And I told him, I said, we need to get going. And my driver's like, why? I said, we need to get going. We need to move. We need to move now.
Yeah.
He was like, why? I said, they're vacating the area. We need to move. I said, we need to vacate. And he,
Isn't that sad? Because Black Hawk Down happened in 98, right? 97, 98.
it was in the 90s. I don't remember exactly when.
Yeah.
But
But we kept on making the same mistakes
Yep.
when we went to Iraq and Iran.
Yep.
Or Iraq, excuse me.
Yep. And so the mortars were going off all around us, and we're trying to get out. So this is why I laughed about your Marines. We called for the Marine QRF. Guess what the Marine QRF said?
We can't respond.
You got this.
They did not.
They did.
Dude.
I had the commander, and I also had the undersecretary of defense with us in this car. And we are trying to get out of this.
And it's just you guys, the MP group? Or did
Just-
you have like Delta guys with you or anything?
Just us. Just us. And so we were going, and then the building in front of us, about the third story, this guy leans out to start shooting at us. My friend in the front sees this, kneels down, and gets several shots, accurate shots on this guy to where the guy falls into the street. The only way out of this alley is over that guy. And I can remember the sounds and the feel of running over this guy in this alley. I cringe every time I run over a mouse now because it triggers that.
Yeah.
And so it was just the sound, the sound of the, I don't want to get too gross. But that was one of the scariest things I ever remember.
Is that ambush?
Was that ambush. And another time in May of 2005.
Was it, if I can pause you, was it scary post facto?
Yeah, because in the middle of it, you're just, the train is insane. Like I tell everybody, I'm like, the training just kicked in. Because I don't remember picking up my rifle, trying to get the sights and everything just perfect or whatever, and just shooting.
Were you guys using irons at that point? You had ACOGs, nothing?
I had just iron sights. Because I was in before, the cool stuff was in.
Dude, I got bougie shit.
I know that. Yeah, you're Air Force too. So.
I am Air Force, but I was like a no one Air Force. I did some stuff, but like,
No, I had iron sights.
that's crazy, dude.
I had iron sights. It was the rear
Circle
with the front
the handle.
Yep, that was I was high tech.
Old.
Yeah. And so
So training starts kicking in.
just kicking in, and you just start doing what you got to do. You just start shooting.
Call it the flow state.
Yep. And at that point in time, you know the different conditions that you're in. You know, condition white, you're just totally relaxed.
Yeah,
You know,
Yep.
kind of like how you and I are right now, just condition white. We were more than condition orange, so there's a little bit of alertness going on when we started seeing the alley starting to clear out.
Yeah.
And then once everything started hitting, that was condition red. The problem is that a lot of people, when they get into those situations, they go to condition black, which is they're not thinking. There's just
You start seeing people just shooting off random rounds, and you're like, "What are you engaging right now?"
Yeah, the pigeon is not our enemy. The guy shooting a gun at us is
Yeah.
the enemy. So that's the condition black.
Yeah.
And we were trained to maintain that condition red.
Mhm.
And so, and then we get back home. We get back to our barracks or our hooch or whatever you want to call it, and kind of regathering ourselves, trying to. But as soon as we pulled into base, Captain Squizzy's like, "We're stopping at the Marine talk." Yeah. He's like, and he fought that all the way up to the generals that were on post with us.
Yeah.
And the Undersecretary of Defense went in with him. I wish I was a fly on the wall.
Oh, dude.
For that conversation.
The unfortunate part is that could have ended his career as a captain.
Shortly after that, he was transferred back.
Yeah.
After that. So I think that's what happened.
Yeah. There's almost too much pride among the higher echelons of the military.
Yep.
And you see it time and time again where they take really good people and they just throw them to the dogs. And
yep.
You know.
Yep. Another time we were heading up to check on this platoon. We just left Victory Base or the base in Mosul, excuse me, and we're heading up. And I just got mounted up in the turret. I mean, we just left the post, and we're heading up our normal route, and we're coming up to one of the Iraqi police stations or the college. I think it was
the checkpoint.
It wasn't a checkpoint. It was just a controlled intersection by the IPs, the insurgent police. I'm sorry, the Iraqi police. And they were stopping all the traffic for us so we could continue on. This white, like a Suzuki or a Toyota SUV type car, 4Runner, came into the middle of the intersection and detonated. It was a VBID, is what we called, vehicle-borne IED. And as we were getting into the intersection, we were so close, I felt a concussion from the explosion in my face. And we started, that's when all the Iraqi police were in condition black, and they just started shooting all over the place. There was bullets whizzing all over the place. We had no idea where things were. And once I kind of got my bearing, like you see in the movie, you see this explosion, you can hear like the ringing and stuff like that. Yeah. That's what it was.
Everything becomes like 3-layered.
Yeah, it's like, just blurry. You're trying to figure out what in the world did I just experience, right? And once everything kind of settled down, everything kind of came into focus and clear a little bit, I saw two of the Iraqi police that were just stopping traffic were on fire, and they're rolling around trying to put themselves out. And the Iraqi police were shooting at things on the ceiling at the Mosul College is what it was. They're shooting at something up there. I don't know what they were shooting at. But the thing that caught my attention the most was this woman on it'd be the northeast corner, and she's cradling something. And I looked at it, and it was a little 3-year-old girl who just got killed by this Iraqi insurgent. The girl was wearing a red dress. I see it clear as day right now, just as we're talking about it. And my driver's like, hey, I'm backing up so we can get out of the kill zone. I said, all right. We back up, and he's like, look around, tell me if I'm safe to get out of the car. I was like, all right. So I lean over the Humvee, and I look down, and right next to where the driver was going to get out of the car, I can see the insurgent's face, because he just completely evaporated. His face, his head was right next to our truck. And the expression on his face was just frozen. It was just a sheer terror. And that was right outside our Humvee door. I said, might want to pull forward a little bit because you're going to step on his face. And that traumatized me the most, was seeing that 3-0 girl. Yeah.
Let's take a break.
Okay.
So, we're back. All that shit goes down. And that's just two different interactions that you've had on this deployment. That's this route that you're taking.
There were more.
Right. I'm just saying that those are only two that we touch base. This continues on for 10 months.
Yeah.
And then 10 months in, you finally get some R&R.
Mm-hmm.
Was it planned R&R? Did you know that it was coming up, or did command come to you and say, hey, you need R&R?
It was planned.
Okay.
I put in my vacation request. But like I said, I was getting ready to promote to sergeant. Or wanted to start testing for sergeant. I wanted to show them that I was more of a leader than anything else. So I wanted to make sure that that the troops were taken care of.
Yeah.
So everybody else had gone on vacation except for me. The only person who didn't was the captain. And I was going to shock you, but I was stubborn. I didn't want to leave until he left. So we went on vacation together. So, I went home in December of 2005, and that's when Megan and I started dating. And then,
because you guys have been doing Postmates.
Yeah.
And for the younger audience, can you explain Postmates?
We would send each other emails back and forth. So we were pen pals. We were just staying in touch for the whole time. And she was, we were really enjoying each other's conversations and stuff like that. And we wanted to see what was going to happen. And I told her I was coming home in December and asked her if I could take her out. And so I got home and we started dating. December 25th, 2005, I had to go back to Iraq. Christmas Day. So we have a picture of me and my BDU, or DCUs is what we called them, desert camo, and my wife, my girlfriend at the time, at 4:45 in the morning, getting ready to load up in the car and take me back to the airport.
On Christmas.
Yeah.
And it's not a short flight either.
No, it was a full 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what was nice, though, is that I was flying with a medic, and he gave me Benadryl. So I was able, and we're in a 777, so I was able to take the seats and just turn them sideways so that way you can just lay across the seats and just be comfortable. So I slept most of the way back. Get back, find out that Squizero had been reassigned. And the commander thought it would be better for me to be in a line unit instead of the headquarters unit. And so he puts me in a line unit, and more shootings. But
what were your primary functions as a line unit?
More of the patrolling.
Okay.
A lot of the patrolling, a lot of building searches, looking for the caches, looking for the weapons, trying to train the insurgent police. Sorry, the Iraqi police, or IPs. I'll just say that now. the IPs on how to secure the borders or secure the bases and stuff like that. Start being the police of Iraq.
Right. To do a soft handoff.
Yeah,
That still technically hasn't happened.
and I don't think it ever will.
No.
So, in February of 06, we get our marching orders to come back home. So it was a full 12 months. I come back and I was selected to be on the special reaction team, which is the military SWAT down in Fort Carson. I was a entry team member as well as a sharpshooter or a marksman is what we called them, marksman and marksman observer. I was also responsible for scheduling all of the trainings. So a lot more administrative stuff, and I got promoted to sergeant shortly after that. And then during my time in Iraq, I got injured. I wish I could say it was a cool incident, but I fell off of a Humvee from one time that it rained with all my gear on it until it jacked up my back.
I mean, how dare you, man? The amount of times you had the opportunity to get shot or blown up.
I know, I fell off a Humvee.
Yeah.
I know. Now I have the 3Ds, the degenerative disc disease, arthritis, herniated discs in my neck and in my back.
All from this fall.
All from one fall because I had 80 pounds of gear on.
Oh, man.
So while I was on SRT, we were doing a training and my back went out and I could not get up. I couldn't move. So they put me on. They transferred me from the special reaction team over to registering vehicles for Fort Carson.
Oh, man.
So
they benched you.
Yeah. It was a kick in the teeth. And then they said they tried everything. They gave me 6 cortisone shots at once. I was high as a kite when they did that. I was in so much pain. And the drugs that they gave me to kind of help with the pain from the injections and stuff, they're like, don't leave, don't drive.
Yeah.
So yeah, they benched me. They started working on doing the medical discharge. So I got out in August 16th, 2007. I put myself in the police academy in I put myself in the law enforcement academy at Arapahoe Community College.
Okay.
August 20th, 2007. So I went literally straight from the military straight to law enforcement, 4 days.
Using the GI Bill.
Yep. And while I was in boot camp, excuse me, while I was in the police academy.
Triggered.
Yeah. I got a call from Blackwell's wife. And she just told me that Blackwell had just been killed. It was August 5th, 2007. He, sorry. He was he was at the Hooch and they started getting mortared. And Justin went running towards the concrete barrier that they told all of us to run to if we start getting mortared. And as he was running to it, he got hit in the back with an RPG, which is a rocket propelled grenade. It decapitated him and it just killed him instantly. His wife got so angry at me because I couldn't leave the academy to go to his funeral, which was in Paris, Tennessee. I haven't talked to him since. I was very close to his daughter, and I was cut out of his life from then on. So, biggest regret I have is the survivor's guilt, because I was supposed to be a sergeant on that tour, but because my back went out, I was kicked out of the Army. So, went through the academy, and I got hired on at our agency now in March of 2008, and that's where I've been ever since. Since 2008,
Have you tried to reach back out to their family?
I haven't.
No response.
No, which is fine. I mean, his daughter is probably in her 20s now.
Right.
Yeah. Don't even know how to
start the conversation.
Yeah. I mean, part of me feels like I failed him by getting out.
What was it really your choice?
It wasn't my choice. I know it wasn't my fault. I know that. It's just he helped me turn my life around.
Yeah.
He got me to quit drinking. He got me to get into the gym. He got me to. Can I tell you a funny story about Justin real quick?
Yeah, please.
This is one of my favorite ones. We were playing racquetball. I'm the biggest klutz ever, so try to picture me playing.
I have a grin on my face because I'm imagining you running back and forth as fast as you possibly could.
Tried to, yeah. And he hit the ball and it hit the wall and it came back, and I did this perfect backhand. But the ball did a weird bounce or something. I was like, where'd the ball go? Justin turns around. He's got this perfect circle right in the center of his lips because I hit the ball right into his face, right? And we died. We just sat there and we were laughing so hard. We were just laying on the middle of the racquetball floor, just dying laughing. So it was just, he was my best friend. And so when I got that call, it just killed me. Yeah. I was his best man in his wedding. And up at one of the townhomes up here in Parker.
Yeah.
So we
and at the time you couldn't leave because if you left the academy, you get kicked out.
Right. I tried to explain that to her and she wouldn't listen.
Right. Yeah.
So I had to.
Well, I'm sure he would understand.
That's what I live with.
Yeah.
That's what helps me.
100%.
Yeah. And as good friends as we are, I know he would. Yeah. He would kick my can if he figured out that I beat myself up.
And he would probably kick your ass too. He's probably still gonna kick your ass when you die.
Maybe. I'd give him a run for his money.
I mean, for how much you're beating yourself up now, but I get it. But also he would really be probably upset if you threw away what you built now,
Yeah.
It's easy in hindsight 2020, right?
Yeah.
But when you're getting into the law enforcement career, there's things you have to give up,
mm-hmm.
And I've had, funerals I've had to miss because of trainings that I can't get out of.
Yeah. Or vacation or holidays.
Yep. Well, 100. Literally the first year I've ever celebrated Christmas was this year.
Yeah.
Or this previous year. So 2023.
Well, this is the first time in 7 years Megan's had me at home with the kids. 7 years.
Yep. It's crazy, man. But
yep.
So you go from military straight to law enforcement,
mm-hmm.
doing the law enforcement thing,
mm-hmm.
working things out with Megan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got married.
Everything just seems to be falling in place.
Yep. We got married in June of 2009. And we have 3 wonderful kids. My oldest is 12, my middle is 9, and my youngest is 8. It was, I definitely married up from Jennifer, that's for sure. But we, so we got that. And since I've been out, the Army discharged me medically at 0%. Even though they medically discharged me, it was 0%. So I went to the VA and fought. I got I think it was like 40%, maybe 30, something like that. Then 2019 rolled around, and that's when I started to really start to see I was suffering from PTSD. I was having incredible emotions of struggling. Like I would have a roller coaster of emotions. I'd go from, happy to sad to angry, back to sad, back to happy, all within 30 seconds. The nightmares, every time we were driving around Castle Rock, Megan was driving, I'm in the passenger seat, and there's a box in the middle of the road. And I started freaking out.
And this is years later.
Yeah. I mean, I got out. I mean, last time I was over in Iraq was 06. I think really in Iraq was 05, but
right.
I was back for 2 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, the scars are there. And she drives over it. I was just like, I like it embraced for impact, It's
right.
just
like you're gonna flip.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then meanwhile, you're trying to work with the VA.
Yeah. Yeah. Started working with the VA. The VA has actually they've been good for me. I used my post 9/11 GI Bill, and I was able to get my bachelor's degree in business administration while I was working in the jail. And graduated in October 2015 with a bachelor's degree in business admin with a GPA of 3.44. But since then, since my disabilities, my back is getting to the point where I can hardly get out of bed, or I heard Justin's voice about a month ago. I was driving by the townhome where he got married. I was training again. I looked at him and said, "What did you say?" He's like, "I didn't say anything." And I know it was Justin's voice. I think being in that location triggered his memory, triggered his voice, but I swear it freaked me out.
Yeah.
And so filed a claim with VA a couple of years ago, 2022, and I got diagnosed with PTSD at 30%. Because of the constant nightmares now, and now with losing my mind hearing Justin, I put in for an increase. So right now I am 90% disabled, but they won't permanently and totally disable you until you hit 100%, because the VA math, the way they do it is, they say, well, if you're 50% disabled, that means 50% of you is still good. So we're not going to totally and permanently disable you. You're 90% disabled. There's still 10%. There's still 10% of you that's good.
Right.
So they won't do a total and permanent disablement.
Right. So you got to go back in for reevaluations,
which I have.
Yeah.
Which I have done. The evaluation I just did about a month ago on the 11th. So it's been a couple weeks. So waiting for those results to come back. The guy who did it said, "Yeah, you're pretty screwed up in the head." I'm like, thanks. Appreciate it. Makes me feel good.
Yeah. Probably makes you feel validated.
Yeah, because
nothing's worse than being crazy and then nobody believing that you're crazy.
Yeah.
I don't mean that by saying you're crazy.
I totally get what
that's a bad word for it, but it's like
it will never go away.
Yeah, it's crazy is not a good word for it. The trauma,
right?
The feeling the trauma, feeling the way you feel, and then not being validated in that is very frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
I am very appreciative for the agency we work with.
Absolutely.
I've never gone to therapy before this agency.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was my wife that pushed me, And she pulled me aside and had a conversation, probably similar to what your ex had, but it was very loving in that she said that she'll always love me, but there's been some things that she's noticed that have changed over my 8-year career in law enforcement and in the time for my deployment coming back home and stuff. And specifically after the deployment that I was last on. And, she said, if you don't say anything, just go, and she knows me, I'll talk to anybody. But she pushed me to therapy by saying, look, if you just go sit in the chair, she's like, go sit in the chair and don't say a word. And that's good enough for me. And so the first day I walk in there, I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. I walk in.
You spilled your guts, didn't you?
I walk in. I'm like, hey, I'm just sitting in this chair. And the therapist that I have, I won't say his name, but he looks at me. He's like, okay, I'll be here with you. Lasted 30 seconds. And then I was like, you know what's really getting to me? Just lay it all out. Next thing you know, I'm like bawling my eyes out. And it was a great experience. Catalyst to that too was I went to Florida and did a ketamine experiment where it was like a therapeutic ketamine administration that got me past a lot of mental block, but I didn't follow it up immediately with therapy that was needed. So yeah, anyway. So you got your reevaluation done. Yeah. You've been working with them. They've been pretty okay.
They have been. Like they were like I had to get a hearing test. Yeah. And so they said I have 10% hearing loss or 10% disabled due to hearing loss. Because of all the shootings, all the explosions and stuff like that. And I was all out, and since they passed that PACT Act with the burn pits, they actually were able to relate my cancer to that. But this is the thing that kind of is screwed up, is that I'm not ashamed to say it. I had testicular cancer because of the burn pits, and they said, and I had that testicle removed. That had the cancer in it. The PACT Act says that any reproductive organ, it's service connected. So they did a service connected disability at 0%.
Because you got it removed.
Yeah, because it's benign, or it's in remission, is what they tell me. I'm like, okay, how is that fair? Because if somebody loses a pinky or a ring finger on their hand, that's an automatic 20%.
Yep.
So they won't budge on that one.
That's frustrating, man.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that sucks.
I'm working through the process now and getting. My biggest regret is that I didn't file sooner, because you have to. For civilians listening in, when you get out of the military, you have to explain to them why you've taken so long to file. Yeah. And it's like this little documentation. You write a little essay. But like for me, it's a little bit easier. COVID happened. We moved from North Carolina to Colorado. My youngest right now came early, so there's some pregnancy issues, so it's built up around that. And then from there I moved from Aurora to the agency that I'm at now. There's a lot of stuff that happened, but I'm starting to go through this process of all these things that happened during the military and then that are related to military service, and I'm having a similar experience with them. Now granted, I'm working with an awesome VA representative here locally, who's kind of explained it in the way of your VA case is almost like a civil trial. Like it's a preponderance of the evidence. So if you come with really good evidence at the beginning, you're good. But if you start your claim and you just kind of go, okay, we'll see what sticks, it's harder to clean up the mess afterwards. Right. So like I've got all these meetings with these specialists, like to go over like my foot injury, my back injury, my because of the PACT Act, my like I have sinusitis or something like that.
Okay.
It's like the inflammation of your sinuses and you get sinus infections. Every time I get sick, I get a freaking sinus infection. And it is so infuriating because it's like my kids will come home with the sniffles and I'm like, oh God, I know what's coming.
Oh no.
I know what's coming, man. So
Get some Vicks.
oh dude. It's like Flonase. There's so much
Flonase.
work I
Uh-huh.
have to do when I am sick to make sure I don't get a sinus infection. And even if I do that, chances are I'll still get a sinus infection for like a week. Most of the time my body can take care of it,
Mhm.
but the amount of antibiotics I have to take because of the sinus infections,
Mhm.
it's so infuriating. But yeah, it's proving that to my time over in the Middle East where there were open burn pits, and there's still open burn pits to this day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when I was over in Kuwait, there was this huge, massive tire fire.
Mhm.
And I remember coming out of the barracks one day and going like, what the? It just smelled bad. It was
Mhm.
smoky. And I was like, this is terrible. My eyes were burning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this a chem attack?
Mhm.
Like, what is going on? And, we get the debrief. Oh, well, there's a tire pit and, downwind from us that's on fire, but it's okay. The health experts say it's fine. And I'm like, okay.
Since when is burning rubber normal?
I know.
Yeah.
So I'll probably get some weird cancer too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So
it's like,
but one of the things that I will say about the VA is that they make sure you get your meds on time.
yeah,
If you start to get low, they automatically ship them to you.
really,
Yeah.
that's nice.
One of the drawbacks to that, though, is that that's their solution to everything.
Medication. Treat the symptom, not the cause.
No.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. It's like trying to put a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound.
And now stateside, they're looking at psilocybin trials with PTSD and kind of like restructuring the brain. And the benefit to that, I'm very open to therapeutic properties of of those types of drugs, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I don't want to see is people just taking shrooms and going tripping, walking down the street.
Right.
It's like the therapeutic properties that they have, especially when you have a therapist, psychiatrist, or someone sitting across from you.
Mm-hmm.
That's one, guiding you through this probably terrifying process, but then also like helping you get through those traumas to where they don't come back. And that's the incredible stuff about this stuff is like, if you have that experience, is as of right now, the data is showing you go through it and it's multiple sessions, but then it just doesn't come back.
Right.
Which opposed to, medication that the VA probably wants to give you. Yeah. It's okay. Well, here's your happy pill.
Yep.
You start feeling sad. Here's your other happy pill.
Yep. And the thing is that like when I remember when I worked in the jail, we had this one guy who would take 6 or 7 different pills. One pill was to cure the problem. The other pills were there to combat each other's side effects.
That's so crazy.
And being in our career field that we're in right now, if you get into a shooting, let's say I'm taking PTSD meds.
Yep.
You get into a shooting, what do?
Drug test.
They draw your blood and they run it through and see, guess what's going to pop up?
Yep.
And guess what's going to come out in court?
Oh, yeah.
So the VA has been asking me if I want to do the meds. And I'm like, no. They're like, well, what are you going to do with it? Just what I've been doing, just stuffing it.
Yeah.
It's like a pressure cooker. Probably about 6 to 8 months ago, I remember sitting on the couch, bawling my eyes out because it was Justin Blackwell's
birthday
anniversary, the rest in peace day for Justin Blackwell. And I was so broken up. I was crying myself. I was just shaking, I couldn't get it together. And I felt like I was losing my mind that day because on how nobody at the VA was helping me. In 2019, when I was originally going to file for it, I was embarrassed. I didn't want to admit that I had the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have a hard time with that. My father-in-law did 38 years in law enforcement, and he's seen some horrific stuff. He was involved in the Big Thompson flood in 1976. And he told me one time, he said, I close my eyes, I can still see the kids crying and screaming for my help. He said, as they're drowning in the bus. He's like, I can't. He's like, that's the stuff that'll never go away. And I never understood it until now. So the VA, their solution sometimes is to just throw a bunch of meds at you. I went through the whole clinical theory process of how you go, how are you feeling today? Oh, I'm feeling angry. Why? And all this other stuff. And excuse me.
It's past your bedtime.
Yeah. It's all good though. It's good. And then I don't want to go down that route of the meds.
Medication after medication after medication.
I don't want
I do know the VA's looking at psilocybin.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the best thing about that is, one, it doesn't show up on drug test.
Okay.
Like, if you get involved in anything.
Right,
But
yeah.
two, it's not like you use it every day.
Right.
It's, you sit down, you have the therapeutic session, and then you're done.
Yeah.
You do follow-up therapy sessions, but otherwise it's the follow-up therapy sessions are like, hey, how are you doing? Any other side effects? Any other negative feelings? Let's talk about this stuff. Let's see how you view it this time. And which is good. But I think that's still in clinical trials for the VA.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, it is sad the amount of I would say the intermingling of the pharmaceutical industry with the military branch and the VA stuff. So
yeah, and I had one person ask me, knowing everything I know now, everything I've done, everything I experienced, if I do it again. My answer is yes. Even through all the loss, all the hurt, all the pain, I'm proud of what I've done.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
I appreciate what you've done for this country.
Well, you too. You too. Don't take that away from yourself.
Yeah.
And everybody who's in the military has been or is thinking about it. It's a scary situation.
Yeah.
But it's an honorable thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't regret it one bit. I'm grateful that I was able to experience what I experienced. Like I laugh at some of the things that Sharp did in boot camp, until he got us smoked. But he, the military teaches you on how to be tougher, and be a little bit more reliant. And also it helps you develop that brotherhood.
Yeah.
The different branches rib each other. We tease each other all the time. But I tell you what, if one person messes with somebody else of the branch, it's like messing with a family member.
Yeah.
It's a very honorable thing.
Well, dude, we kicked it off as soon as we jumped in the car together.
We did. We had fun.
Yeah.
I still have the picture of that nasty house. Oh, that really bad DV.
Oh God, yeah. That was gross.
There was mold all over the place.
Yeah, that was one of those I stripped before coming back into my house.
Yeah,
but
I think I took a bleach shower that night. Yeah.
Well, cool, man. We'll wrap this up here because it is getting late. But what's something I'm not asking you that you want to share? That we haven't already covered. I feel like we covered a lot.
We did cover a lot. I guess I just want everybody to know that yes, the current of affairs in the country is rough right now, but if I can encourage anybody to enlist, they should enlist. Don't be like me. Wait until you're older.
23.
23 when you're supposed to be 18. You know, those 5 years. Those 5 years mean a lot. You know,
It does. Yeah.
If you don't want to enlist, definitely get a college degree and then go in as an officer. Go in as an officer. Yeah. You know, or if you go in and then go through officer candidate school, enlist and go through officer candidate school. Some of my best lieutenants were former enlisted.
Yeah, Mustangs.
Yeah, they went. We in the Army we call it green to gold.
Okay, is
what we call it. And those were
Mustangs warrant officers, maybe.
I think so.
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking that.
Warrant officers would be a fun job.
Yeah.
But definitely do your research. Figure out what branch you want to get into. If you are wanting the mechanics, honestly, that would be a Navy.
If you're smart, Air Force.
Sure. I can't deny it. I can't deny that. I won't. Yeah.
I would say if I could rewind the clocks, the only thing I would do is instead of going reserve, even though you deploy a lot when you're a reservist and you get a lot of really great training and you spend a lot of time activated as a reservist, the only regret I have is that I didn't go active duty and I didn't really pursue doing like special forces stuff.
Right. Well, and I think you would have been really good at that. Honestly, you've got the head knowledge for it. You definitely got the ability to do it. And
it's been one of the hardest things is like I want to file my VA packet, but at the same time, it's like 29 years old, still got time, could still go back in.
I'm too old.
Well, yeah.
And
you've shared your time.
I looked at the Space Force.
I
looked at that and I was like, dang it, I'm too old for that one too. I was like, wow, I'm that guy now.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story, man.
Absolutely.
And you may be that guy that can't get back in, but you can definitely share your experiences. And I know we went over it a lot. And
anytime.
I appreciate it, man. And,
well, thanks for having me.
Well, dude, I appreciate meeting you. I'm just like, I've been so grateful for the people that have come around me and that have like fallen into my life. I say, I'm always amazed at the great people that are around me. And then somebody told me, it's like, hey, well, you're a great person too. And I was like, I guess, but like the people around me are like next tier, man.
When we rode together, it was fun. We,
am I still your best trainee?
Absolutely. There, I sit there and I hear you on the radio. I'm just like, oh my word. We used to get into, we used to get into some stuff.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. Short time ago, man. Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Everybody, we'll tune out there. Have a good one.